executive creative director and lead design consultant, certified floral designer, and award-winning design event and owner of Vivid Expressions, Janel Bailey Keen. Welcome to the Beautiful People series.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to chat with you. Not only are you in Virginia where I am, but
Just down the street.
yeah, one of my customers, and I'm so excited. We already had time to work together and get to know each other a little bit. But really want to dive deep into how this came about. I know that your life was on a different trajectory until
Yeah.
Isabel.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about that.
So, well, my background is actually in fine art. And I kind of hopped around in different capacities. I worked at a lot of different places. I worked for a few museums. I worked for a few tourist area kind of places. Like I worked for Jamestown Yorktown Foundation. I worked for Busch Gardens, a caricature artist for a while. I worked for a small animation studio doing PR and marketing. I've worked for Young Audiences of Virginia, Virginia Arts Festival, Virginia Symphony. So all these different arts organizations. And then, like a lot of us in the arts area, I kind of figured out that sometimes they don't pay the best.
Yeah.
So I ended up kind of leaning over more to the corporate side, and I ended up I was a contractor for Verizon, doing training and all those other things like that, which was fine. I worked for the U.S. Air Force as a contractor doing PR and marketing work for some of their programs. Again, fine work, paid the bills. But I still kind of had this passion to be more creative. So, like a lot of people, maybe who are in the wedding industry, I kind of fell in love with weddings after my own wedding. So, I got engaged in 2002. And at the time, I was a contractor for Verizon. And I thought to myself, well, how hard could a wedding be? We do company picnics and holiday
Famous
parties.
last words.
How hard could it possibly be? Well, found out how hard it was. Um, I was very meticulous, though. I think I was really kind of trying to stay focused and very organized. So I had like I had little sketchbooks of what my ceremony site was going to look like, and sketchbooks of what the rain site was going to look like in case it rained. We had to move indoors, and I even put together like little manuals for my bridesmaids. What is a bridesmaid? A bridesmaid responsibility dates back to blah 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 blah. I was that obsessed. And I was doing fairly well until like a week and a half before my wedding when my mom called and she goes, "So, do you have a rain site?" I'm thinking to myself, of course I have a rain site. I would never say that to my mom. But but of course we had a rain site. And I said, "Mom, we're fine. I'll talk to you next week," yada, yada, yada. Hung up the phone and checked the 10-day forecast. And at the time it was called Tropical Storm Isabel. And I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but in 2003, which is when we
Yeah,
got married in September 2003, Hurricane Isabel hit Virginia, and to date, it's still one of the worst hurricanes to hit the area
that's crazy.
in decades. I mean, we had two-thirds of the state had no power, severe flooding, the whole nine yards. And, me being the optimist that I was and still kind of am, I was thinking when, the day before the wedding or the day before a hurricane hit, I'm thinking, oh, it'll be fine. It'll turn. It'll be fine. It won't hit us. Hits us on a Thursday. Isabel hits us on a Thursday. I'm putting together place cards shaped like cheers by candlelight.
Oh my goodness
you know,
gracious.
we couldn't, we had a radio, but the radio died because we didn't have new batteries. It was just, one of those situations where it's like, okay, let's get through the night. It'll be fine. The next day, which is Friday, the day before the wedding, and it's beautiful as it is after every storm.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. The power will come back any minute now. It'll be fine. And 8:20 in the morning, and I will never forget this. Norfolk Botanical Gardens, which is where we're supposed to get married and have our ceremony. They call and they say, well, 2/3 of the state have no power. We've had severe flooding. Trees are turned over. The governor's shut us down. We cannot host your wedding. And I was okay for a moment. I thought, well, we'll just get married in the backyard. It'll be fine. We'll have the nice, simple ceremony at home, and we'll have a
Okay.
nice reception at the hotel on the ocean front. And of course, 10 minutes later, the hotel calls and they go, "Yeah, we've had flooding. We've had flooding in the ballroom, and we have no power, so we can cater if we wanted to. And the ballroom is now a storage. The other ballroom is now a storage room, and yeah, we cannot host your wedding." And I think I ugly cried for like 10 minutes straight,
Oh
like that
no.
cry that you get when you're a little kid and you can't breathe,
Yep.
the ugly cry. And then something inside me said, "No, no, you're getting married. You're getting married. His family's flying in from Missouri. You're getting married." So at the time, we lived in Chesapeake, and I thought to myself, okay, the hospital's on Battlefield Boulevard. They'll probably get power to the hospital first. What else is close by that might be on the same power grid? Oh, there's a Walmart. So we go over to Walmart. Everybody's getting canned food and water. And
Crazy.
we're in the home and garden section getting vases and candles because we're going to make the backyard look good because we're going to get married. And we buy a landline phone. We come home. We do the plug it in. We do the phone tree thing, calling everybody. And right about noon is when the miracles start to happen, because right about then in the botanical gardens call back and they say, okay, we're still closed to the public, but we can get a generator in the rain site. Are you interested? I was like, yes, 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 we'll take it. Hung up the phone. A few minutes later, the hotel on the oceanfront call, and they go, okay, we have cleared out the ballroom. We can get occupancy. We can, get everything together there. I was like, yes, great. And then the botanical gardens call back again, and they say, okay, we actually have cleared out the generator. The generator is in the rain site. You're welcome to use that. But we've also cleared out the garden that you want to get married in. We can have the tram take people from the parking lot to that space and back again. Are you interested? It's like, yes. 95% of our vendors come through.
Oh my goodness.
And, we even got our horse drawn carriage. And to this day, I'm still friends with the horse and carriage company.
Oh, that's awesome. So that
But
really kind of put you in a different position. After your wedding,
absolutely.
you thought, okay, how can I make people's weddings simple and easy and
Exactly.
smooth?
Well, I learned a couple of different things. Number one, the first thing I learned was, when it comes to special events like that, it's not like a holiday party. It's not like a company
Yeah,
picnic. You're not going to have a committee meeting 3 months later and go, oh, what can we do better next year? It's
yeah,
for so many of us, our lives are built on memory and the memories we create with our family and our friends. And at the end of the day, what those experiences are to ourselves and the people who touch our lives, that's the important thing. And, I wish I had better experience. I mean, don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, I married my best friend.
yeah,
We have a great life. We have wonderful kids. And, I'm very, 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 very grateful for everything that came through that day. But if there was something I could do to help somebody else not go through what I went through, I wanted to be a part of that. And I had been sitting on my skills for so long. And not that I didn't appreciate the corporate aspect of, having all those skills and working with people and all the things I've learned in that aspect, but I felt like I had more to give and I wanted to be creative and I wanted to use that creativity. I feel like every single person has gifts, and it's our job to discover them or have people in
mhm,
our lives that help us discover them and nurture them and use them to create better experiences in lives, better expressions of who we are, better communication with the people around us, and just create a better world that we live in. So, it took me a couple of years of kind of doing some research, and then I opened the doors technically to Vivid Expressions in 2006, and it was like a little corner of the living room was dedicated.
yep. That's how we all start out. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Start there.
Hmm.
And then I wanted to kind of go from planning into the floral and decor side of things, but I just didn't know how to do it. And I did what most people do. I experimented with the artificial
Yeah.
flowers and discovered I really didn't like working with artificial flowers. Don't get me wrong. There are such situations I do still use them, but it's more for like, I don't know, just general situations that I can't use other products for. My main love that I really fell in love with flowers was when I took my first floral design class. Ironically enough, Norfolk Botanical Gardens, in conjunction with the state of Virginia, had a floral certification class, and it was a 400 hours. Uh, I can't remember. It was like the fall of 2008. And the reason I know that is because by the time I finished it, I was 8 months pregnant.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I was waddling around
Wow.
carrying buckets and cleaning buckets full steam ahead. So got my first certification in 2008, and then I loved it so much. I went back for a second certification that following year, and I've never looked back since. I mean, flowers are just an amazing living art material. And once you understand them, understand how they work and how you can incorporate them, they're just an amazing piece that you can create with. They're amazing
Yeah.
materials that you create with. And I think that was kind of one of the other triggers that kind of got me into this, because with my background in fine art, I didn't really see a lot of the art principles that
Yeah.
I was used to seeing in the wedding designing. So I started kind of doing incorporating sketches, like concept sketches, like an interior designer, and taking that approach to
Mhm.
designing weddings. And then once I kind of blueprinted things out with sketching, then I was able to take those materials and figure out how the best ways to use them and kind of like reverse engineer things like, mechanics and how to create, what type of armatures do I need? Do
Mhm.
I go natural with these materials or can I use like chicken wire?
Yeah.
you know,
And
just kind of
that's
reverse
really
engineer
incredible
things.
that you went into that because I was going to ask you, I know a lot of, obviously, a lot of floral designers, and we really do sketch out designs or whatever. I love that about you. You have so much art and creative design on your website, but it's interesting that you offer your brides portraits or watercolors at their wedding. And you do
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
just blew my mind. Because like not only
Yeah.
are you floral designing the event, you're, handling her whole entire event, and then you're going to be there to sketch and draw the
Live paint. Yeah.
yeah, the party. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah. I mean, I
Superwoman.
figured that's something. Oh, bless your heart. Thank you. I figured that is a perspective that I can bring. And I
Yeah,
love kind of figuring out and helping and working with other folks in our community to see, what is it that's your special spark and how can we turn the volume up on that so that you can lead with that passion and that gift. And I feel like everybody has something.
yeah.
If you just know how to just kind of fan that flame and kind of really make it grow and kind of lead with your passion, lead with your talent, lead whatever that is.
Yeah. So do you think as a woman business owner, even an African American business owner, what do you think was like the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome in your career?
Whew, this is a hard topic. I think that being seen authentically can be a challenge. I know that people kind of taking you seriously, I guess. Not to say that there's anything wrong with kind of where you start. You start where you start. And If it's DIY, great. If you want to transition that and build that into a career, you need to really kind of figure out, okay, how can I take this and I can present it in the most professional way? What do I need to know? What skills, what
Mhm.
background? And, I worked really hard at developing those things so that people can just say, oh, she's not just playing at being
Yeah.
a
I mean,
professional. She is a professional.
your website speaks volumes,
Oh,
honestly.
thank you. Thank you so, so much. I did my website, so I'm really pleased to hear that.
Yeah, there's so much information, and you could tell
Yeah.
like that you're a really hard worker. What do you think
Yeah,
is
I think that that's the hardest part is people sometimes have a perception of who you are, and then
interesting?
I feel like that's the hardest thing, that feeling like I have to prove myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like even after 18 years of being in business, I still have this internal voice that says, you have to prove yourself. You have to prove yourself, even though I have proof.
Do you
Does that make
think,
sense?
yeah, do you think that that's something because of society, or is that something that is just an inner struggle with you
I
personally?
think it's I think it can be both. I think it
Okay.
can be both. I think if you've seen it a lot in the world, then sometimes that becomes an internalized seed. And once you recognize it's there, once you know what's the old saying, once you identify the beast, you can slay it.
Okay.
So that's one thing that I've identified over the last several years, that a lot of times it's my internal voice that I need to often work on as well. And that mindset. And I've learned a lot about mindset over the last few years, where the way you talk to yourself can either encourage you or it could hold you back.
Mm.
And a lot of times, some of the biggest clients I've worked with, some of the biggest events I've, created designs and florals for, you know, if I had it was just one simple conversation with my insides of, not literal conversation, but
Right, right.
just
Yes.
recognizing that voice inside my head saying, oh, you can't do that, or can you really pull off a team that big, or that's a lot of work, you think you
Mm.
can do that, just kind of that that inner dialogue with you that
Yeah.
you have with yourself. Sometimes if you recognize that you're having that conversation with yourself, and if there's no true merit in it,
Hmm.
that anything is possible. You just have to figure out the solution. And that's part of being a creative. Being a creative
Yeah.
means identifying situations, brainstorming different solutions, prioritizing which way will be the best, and then kind of mapping out and then taking the next step, taking those leaps.
Do you feel like
So,
you have to be your own hype girl?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I also know that I also have to recognize that I do have an amazing support team. And it would be horrible of me if I did not stop to say that my biggest hype person is my husband.
Yeah.
And I know it's a terrible thing to say, but it's a great thing to say, because I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest. I'm so grateful to have people
Hmm.
in my life that are in my corner. And there was a point where I was kind of debating on whether or not to launch my business or to stay on the path I was in. And it was we had a big layoff at where I was at. It was for tech. It was for the contract for the military. The contract ended. I was a marketing person, and the contract ended. And this has just been on my mind, to push forward with this business and to kind of launch this and just follow this. And my husband said, "Go for it. You got this. Just go for
Hmm.
it. What's the
Yeah,
worst
that's
that's going to
awesome.
happen?" What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
So yeah, anytime I was in those stages where it's like, I don't know, he would just having somebody in your corner,
Yeah.
and then later on working with people that I consider mentors or coaches or support folks, who also were able to kind of just help me step outside of myself
Hmm.
and take the big picture view of things and realize, hey, maybe I can do this. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, this I've done this before. This is just like this other situation.
Yeah. What are some other ways to encourage diversity in our industry, do you think?
I think we need more opportunities to really see each other more, and by that I mean, whether it's networking opportunities, whether it's just community functions, and kind of letting people know that the door is open and the table is set, and inviting them to the table. I think I heard somebody not too long ago saying that there's a difference between making room at the table versus actually sending out an invitation. I
Interesting.
think that we should be more proactive in inviting people, because sometimes people don't know that they're welcome or don't know that there's space for them.
Yeah.
And just being aware that, yeah, no, you're certainly welcome, and here's your invitation. Now, if they choose not to come, that's a totally different situation. But if the space is there and the invitation's out there, then people are more open to feeling like, yeah, I feel like this is a place I could go, I can belong, I can be a part of, I can help grow the community as well as grow within myself.
Hmm. Do you think post George Floyd, that do you think that we have more unity in our country or less? And what do you think?
Oof.
How do we? I know it's a big question.
That's a hard, that's a big question. I think
Do you
that
think that with our country is divided?
I feel like there's so much fear. There's so much fear. There's so
Mhm.
much fear. And I think that fear creates division, because fear creates this sense of self-preservation. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, well, I know there's a problem, but what can I do about it? So that's apathy, and that can come from fear. Or I don't know what the next step is. That can come from fear. Or I'm not the problem, so why am I going to do anything? That's part of that fear and apathy. And I feel like that's a big, I see a lot of that too. And there are some people who will recognize the issue, know that there's a problem out there. They don't know what to do about it. They don't want to incriminate themselves, maybe sometimes, because it's like, well, yeah, I had a friend or a cousin that did X, Y, and Z,
Mhm.
and I didn't say anything, or I didn't stand up. And then there's that sense of guilt too.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, I feel like there is still this sense of tension in our country. And some of it is straight up guilt, fear, apathy.
Mhm.
A lot of people, though, on the other side, on the other hand, they're ready for the change.
Yeah.
They're ready to make a change. They just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's
It's an
like,
interesting take
it's like,
on it.
yeah, I think a lot of people, like, they want to help, they don't know how. They
Yeah.
want to help, but they don't want to seem like they they uh they've been complacent.
Yeah.
So I feel like, if after George Floyd, if either you had a kind of a wake up call, I guess, like, oh my God, this is real. This isn't just something that somebody was talking about
Yeah.
on a fictitious television show.
Mm.
This actually happens. Then you have a choice. And the choice is to either be willing to move forward, or to sit there and say, well, if I ignore it or pretend it's not there, or just kind of mind my own business, it'll go away, which we
Mhm.
all know it won't.
Yeah.
Or you could just, you could sit there and just say, you know what, um, maybe I need to rethink the way I review, look at things.
Hmm.
But that takes a lot of self awareness as well. I
Yeah,
feel
for
like that
sure.
takes a lot of self awareness.
What
And it's
what
hard. It's
advice?
hard for people. It's hard for people when they're like, well, my life is, this is the way my life is, and I know life is hard, and I've had hard situations. It's hard for me to think outside of my own
Yeah.
experiences sometimes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. What advice can you give like young boys or girls for the future? Maybe in floral design or just in general.
I think first and foremost, find your voice, find your vision, and feel confident in who you are as a creative. To know that there are 8 billion, 7, 8 billion people on the face of the planet. Every one of us sees the world through a completely different lens that's unique to ourselves.
Mhm.
And that can be a tremendous gift. So focus on what your vision and gift is, what your particular perspective, your talent, your voice, your message, your
Mhm.
mission. Know yourself first and how you create, what your style is, and build on that, because that uniqueness is going to help you stand out. More importantly, and this is something I truly believe, every single person in this world has somebody out there at any given time waiting and in desperate need of the gift you have to give.
That's
Right
amazing.
now,
Yeah.
somebody right now is in desperate need of something that only you can provide them. And it's your job to bring yourself out into the world so you can be there for them.
Nice. So I want to end with a quote from your website, one of your quotes, actually. It says, we've all been given gifts and the ability to learn so that we can help each other create, grow, celebrate life, and shine light into the world. I absolutely love that. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today for the Beautiful
Oh,
People
thank you.
series.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And if there's anything I could do for you or anybody else in the community, I'd love to mentor and coach and try to help others on their journey and maybe discover what their personal light is and how they can shine it brighter.
Love that. Thank you.